My career started in tech with Deloitte Digital. My background is in industrial engineering and UX design, and I've always had a passion for emerging technologies and figuring out hard stuff. And so was a nerd through and through, and at Sloan realized that I wanted to round out that reputation and was really interested in consumer products and retail, and so immediately joined the retail club, which is how I scored that sweet Milan internship, which was a very fun summer of lots of gelato and wine. That's all I remember from it. And then afterwards, pretty much solidified my kind of pursuit of retail. And so even though I did go back to Deloitte Digital, I specifically focused on retail projects, and then left a year in to join the Sephora innovation team. It was the perfect role because it straddled kind of the background in design thinking and human computer interaction with net new technologies that the retailer was trying. And then after 3 years in the innovation lab, a lot of the projects that were spawned out of that team actually scaled to be full-on projects and programs. And so a team was actually formed to run those projects, and specifically those that are focused on the in-store tech. And so I head that team now and have been doing that for the last few months. If you think of retail, right, as you can imagine, the experience of shopping in a store is changing very quickly. So consumers have very different expectations, very different behaviors. They're on their phones all the time. They have expectations around things like order online, pick up in store, right? And being able to interact with digital kiosks. And the same goes for store associates. They're becoming more and more digitally enabled. They have to have all this information about the various products that they're using. They need to be able to deliver a personalized service. And so my team oversees that entire portfolio of digital experiences. So we serve both the Sephora client, what we call our customers, and the Sephora beauty advisors as well. So those two populations are who we work for and make sure that their experience is as smooth and personalized as possible. My team oversees everything from clienteling apps that our beauty advisors use, to the augmented reality kiosks to try and makeup in the Sephora store, to self-serve digital kiosks for clients to help themselves out if the store associate is busy. And also kind of, cutting edge technology like diagnostics, like how do you use technology to help find the perfect beauty product for the client, no matter who the client is, no matter what their skin type, their age, and so that any store associate can help them no matter what level of expertise. So we work a lot with, AI, diagnostics, AR, VR, and all these other very exciting cutting edge technology to just imagine, what the future of the Sephora in-store experience will be. And so that's kind of my purview. Day to day, it means I work very closely with our retail operations team because they help make everything a reality, but also with IT and product because they build the tools that we imagine and test. And so there's lots of cross-functional meetings as well, lots of testing, experimenting, throwing things out, things that are not working, and lots of relying on data and insights. This is one of the things that Sephora is very passionate about, is being client-obsessed and data-driven. So it means working with analytics teams to kind of track various KPIs, adoption, do people love the product, how is it working, as well as conducting a lot of user research, interviews, feedback. Prior to COVID, we would visit stores very often to just observe and talk to the associates to see how they're liking things. Now we have to do these things over Zoom. So it's really exciting. And the role spans kind of two skill sets. One is being an operator, which is definitely something I picked up at Sloan. So how do you run a program consistently and help it grow, but also being an entrepreneur. So this is when you have a super crazy idea and you just want to scrappily test it and prove it out before you can actually get all of your execs to buy in and say, yes, roll it out to all of our stores. And those two skills I get to flex. And I think a lot of the kind of background that I got at Sloan to be able to do those has been super helpful for me. We have just been amazed at how much faster and more innovative everyone has been. Like Sephora is a makeup store, right? So you're very close to people. You're supposed to be trying on things. So we completely had to rethink everything around store associate and customer safety. How do you try on products? roll out all these net new initiatives to support helping someone virtually, to order online, pick up in store. And all of these things happened so quickly. It's actually mind-boggling. I think the clubs were really key in helping me figure out which way I wanted to go. I had also joined the marketing club in addition to the retail club and just had a huge affinity for the retail club. I was part of the design thinking club, and we went to Toronto for a competition around that. That's always very helpful in, I think, any job to be able to solve problems in a human-centered way. That was very helpful. I did not do any action learning. I took time off whenever I could. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I knew I was planning on going back to Deloitte. So I didn't feel the pressure to kind of, like take an internship that I thought like I might have to go back to. And actually that was one of the things that MIT was so great at, was the flexibility in the various programs, right? Like once, I had reached out to Caring and bugged them for months and months and months for that internship. MIT was so helpful in terms of helping figure out like the visa and how to even, go abroad to work and what needed to be done. So that was an amazing resource that MIT provided. And then I also did an independent study my second year with a bunch of mates, and we actually ended up forming a startup coming out of it. And that was a great learning experience. We ended up building a lifestyle consultancy that brought together art and company culture and had artists facilitate companies through various organizational crises. I think it's really important to understand the breadth of opportunities that you can have in retail. Again, you can, be in tech, you can be in logistics, you can be in operations, you can be in marketing, you can be in real estate, right? So no matter what, vertical you're passionate about, there is a role for you in retail. And I think the other thing that's really helpful to do is just start talking to companies early. I think out of, all the industries, retail does tend to still rely on those types of connections because they don't have that same kind of rigorous recruiting cycle. And so forming those relationships early on, whether it's going to retail conferences in the area, right? Like whether it's traveling to Wharton or, going to New York or even, going to Harvard for their conference, just meeting as many people as possible and talking to them about what they do and what excites them, and then maintaining those relationships is extremely important. I think the other thing is retail is also becoming more and more fond of MBAs. I don't think that was necessarily the case maybe 10 years ago, but now I see a lot more demand for things like e-commerce strategy, omni-channel strategy, marketing, retention. So now everyone is all of a sudden looking for MBA interns as well. And so trying on an internship for size or even trying to do an externship, something off cycle, is a really great way to learn about the industry and again, build those connections that will come in handy when you're actually recruiting for a full-time role. I think we're seeing a huge demand for candidates who understand the macro view, understand the landscape, both around consumer behavior, that, the particular, type of retailer that you're in, whether it's, athletics, beauty, makeup, furniture, because Wayfair is another big MIT lover, like really understanding that world, being able to formulate a hypothesis for a strategy, like why is it that you think these are the 3 initiatives we should be pursuing, and then being really data driven then to make the right decisions of how do you test it, how do you scale it, how do you kill your darlings, but again, to mirror this point, how do you sell it across the company, right? Because not everyone will necessarily be on board with that. I think the 2 particular areas that we're seeing a lot of growth in is one is on the technology side. So both from being able to be kind of like a product manager for retail technology, which is a huge growing area, and I don't see that going anywhere. And with, a particular focus on experiences, but also machine learning, AI, data analytics, that area, and then also everything on the supply chain side. So for example, it's really important to the consumers to understand where the products are coming from, where they're sourced. And so there's a doubling down on things that are clean, green, transparency of the supply chain. We're seeing a lot of that. And I think a third area is actually diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big focus area for organizations. I think if that's kind of your passion, there's definitely a place in retail for that in terms of creating a culture of inclusion, creating retail spaces that are safe for everyone. And I think finally, everyone's coming on board with that. And so that's another area that I see a lot of opportunities open up for, head of D&I, talent, learning and development. And it's a great place to be right now too. Every conversation you go into, tell yourself that this is your dream job, right? Like in that moment, in that interview, this is your dream job. Once you get the offer, then you can think about it again. But, that passion and enthusiasm really comes through. So it's just really important to believe that when you're talking to someone, for sure. And I think the other piece is being open to experimentation. I think one of the things that did attract me to MIT Sloan was the opportunity to try and test things here and there. And I know I've mentioned design thinking a lot, but I apply it to kind of my daily life. So find ways to almost prototype any big decisions, right? So find ways where you could, do a freelance consulting gig or research more or try something in a small, safe way to see if you like it and then go from there, right? So if you do have a role that, you're not as passionate about, for example, take on a stretch project. You don't have to switch jobs. You don't have to switch bosses, but try on a stretch project, see if you like it. It might grow on you. And keep experimenting with things and, doubling down on things that work and feel good. Sephora has amazing leadership and a lot of them are women. So at any given point in time, you're, watching execs present or, your head of department is speaking and you're constantly inspired by kind of their passion for their job, by how much they care about people and how transparent they are. I think there's a culture of really caring about work-life balance. And again, a lot of it does have to do with the fact that there's a lot of women who work at the company. And so it's understood that, we're balancing lots of things. So that makes me really excited. The second thing is the renewed vigor around diversity and inclusion that I truly see happening from the CEO all the way down to our store associates. Everyone is so passionate about it and it's part of the Sephora DNA. And that makes me feel really proud to work for that company. I know it's not just lip service. And the third piece is the constant passion around innovation. Every single team, I think, of the company is trying something new constantly, launching things, experimenting, and it just feels good to be at a place where that is embraced and where no one blames you for a failure. You're just going to keep trucking